I was going to send.
Okay. Yeah, I can definitely check in with Fred and find out for you.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. No problem. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get the ball rolling. What do you say? Let's go and remove this. All right. Well, happy Friday. Happy Friday. Thanks so much for being here. Again, for people that are jumping for the first time, my name is Simon Cazares, team leader and broker of record for the South Bay, the Long Beach, and also the Valley offices as well. Every Friday at 10:30 for 1 hour, I go over different scenarios, different topics, and contracts as well. So it's something that you need to be mindful is when you're in real estate, there's so many moving parts to it, right? And the essence is where do we get started? What do we need to do first? How do we get launched? What do we do to attract the potential buyers, sellers, and investors, right? So I think this presentation will definitely give you kind of a better scope of things. And to me, it's I wish I had this information when I started, right? So win the first client meetings, okay? How to win buyers and sellers consultations and get into production fast. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started here. Let me go ahead and just make this momentum here. And there we go. So what are you going to learn and what are you going to walk away today? Well, one, lead a confident buyer consultation, lead a seller consultation, and the vital part of it is ask better questions. Ask better questions. And more so, how to handle objections. If a seller says this to you, if a buyer says this to you, how do you navigate those conversations? And then leave every meeting with a clear on what the next step is. Okay. Remember, you're the driver of this bus. Your job is to navigate it from point A to point Z and get to the finish line. What is the finish line, right? Get the deal in escrow, right? Close the deal so that way we can get paid. And then focus on the income producing activities, right? Because I think it's vital and important. If you're not doing this as an exercise, you're not going to feel confident. You may feel a little overwhelmed. Okay. The strain and pressure and the anxiety comes into play. But if you practice, you get better. When you practice, the confidence comes out. When you practice, the decision making is already 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of the game because you already understand the initial 1, 2, 3, 4 process. Does that make sense? So you got to know in all of the elements and how you're looked at, right? Because it's not about selling real estate, it's about selling yourself, right? But these are the key elements that you're going to take away on today's session. Now, bear in mind, I'm going to try to condense it and go rapid fire to try to get you out by 11:30. Okay, I might go a little over, but again, if you want this presentation, by all means, just shoot me an email. I'll be more than happy to do so. Okay. All right. So in the next 60 minutes, we're going to be talking about the opening hook, why agents stay broke. Okay. And buyer's framework, seller's framework, the productions, the principle, and the action plan that you need, and why you need to know how to move, right? Because in essence, no one knows you do real estate. And if they don't know you do real estate, you're not going to see the potential of why you got your real estate license in the very first reason, right? So the essence is looking at, again, the big picture is I got into real estate with the number one goal is to make and earn money, right? Now it is sales, right? And the essence is you're not getting a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly income, right? You got to go out there and hunt for the business, and the business will eventually, when you're out there, will come towards you, right? And that's the whole element, right? It doesn't matter if you're in real estate, it's any type of sales, right? that it's all commission driven, right? And the beautiful thing and also the bad thing about it is that, you can make a substantial amount of income, but if you're not doing the work and putting in the time effort, you're not going to see the results to it, right? Okay. And for people that have been in this industry for a very long time, they understand that it's a grind every single day. We don't have a job that's a Monday to Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You have a 10-minute break and a 30 or an hour lunch. That's just not what we got into. We got into for the flexibility, the independence, and really to scale the opportunity to work with people that want to work with us. Okay. So I want to set the ground level here to make you understand that if you're not willing to commit to it, you're not going to see the results from it, right? So what actually gets you paid? Showing homes, right? I think that's kind of the understanding is if you're not showing homes, you're not going to see any paychecks, knowing contracts, right? I always talk about this always. You got to learn three things. Okay. You got to learn real estate contracts, negotiations, and objection handlers. If you can at least get through those elements, those three things, I promise you, you're going to do okay. I promise you, you're going to do fine because you're going to have the understanding of how to articulate the conversation when it comes to the contracts. You're going to be able to diffuse a situation because of your negotiation skills. And you're going to be able to, with confidence, be able to handle any objections that the buyer or seller give you. Okay. So leaning is a great first meeting. Okay, be proactive, right? Today I'm going to go out there and start lead generating. Today I'm going to come to the office and I'm going to prospect. I'm going to pick up the phone. I'm going to hit my database. I'm going to start texting people. Okay, do some type of income producing activity, and I promise you, you're going to see results. It may not happen immediately, but if you're in it for the long haul, I promise you, you'll see results. So rate yourself 1 to 10. Confidence in your buyer consultation. How many feel very comfortable in going on a buyer's consultation right now? Okay. Tell me a little bit more about that. What do you do to prepare for it?
I try to ask as many questions as I can in advance to kind of already know how to lead the communication.
Okay.
Find out as much about them as I can.
Yes.
So they have kids or they're an older couple. So then when we actually meet to talk about homes and the whole process, to kind of have an idea what I'm going to be talking about and to have prepared some kind of areas, like if they have kids, to prepare things about schools, like something that's going to ease their mind.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If you look at the scale, right, most agents are kind of in the midst right here. Okay. Because they don't feel comfortable saying, yes, I can score a 10. I feel that comfortable that right now I can go on a buyer consultation. I can right now go on a listing presentation. Okay. But you also have to understand you have to have the ability to make a commitment too, right? Because if you're not training yourself on a regular basis, then when you go on a buyer consultation or in a listing appointment, guess what's going to happen? You're probably not going to get the buyer to sign an agreement with you. You're probably not going to get the seller to sign a listing agreement with you. So you got to start the foundation, the framework, and the understanding is I got to lead to that opportunity, right? It's no difference than running a marathon, right? What's the mileage on a marathon? Is it 26.5 miles or 27.1? I don't remember. Okay. Something like that, right? But can you say with confidence is that if the LA Marathon, as an example, was this coming Sunday, you can go out there and do it and run it and complete it and get a medal? Probably not, right? In your mind, you probably say, yeah, I can do it, but your body may not, right? But you got to train, right? You got to train to that ability where now you have the ability, right? Because you stretch, you go on runs, you have good rhythm with breathing, and now you can do a 27 miles, okay? You may not be one of those elite marathon runners that do it in what, 3 hours, 2 hours, but you get through the finish line, right? Well, that's kind of the same thing when it comes to real estate, right? Folks, I want you to feel confident in your ability when it comes to talking to people. When you're hosting an open house, right? What are you doing to showcase that home, right? And it starts with the very simplest things, right? By introducing yourself, having a smile, having eye contact, right? Good, firm handshake, right? Having all of the lights inside turned on, right? If it's a warm day, maybe having the AC, maybe having some snacks, right? As an example. But all of that can be great. But if you're not having any conversations with people, they're going to go in, they're going to look, and then they're going to walk right out. This is where you need to have a commitment to yourself that you got to get yourself out of that comfort zone. And that comfort zone is I got to be proactive in my engagement. I need to have a conversation with this person because I need to know where is their motivation. Okay. There's three elements to a motivation, right? Either a cold client, a warm client, or a hot client. Where of these three categories does your client fit or potential client fit, right? So I want you to give a good understanding and a good perspective on that. Let's get to the realistic of what we do in real estate, okay? Not to be a damper into this and not to be negative, but why agents stay broke, okay? They wing the meetings. They talk too much. They explain features instead of diagnosing the needs and wants of their clients. They skip financial qualifications, avoid asking for commitment, and confuse activities with productivity. Okay. Activity is not productivity. Appointments are not income. Signed agreements are. Folks, I'm old school. Okay. And when I got trained back in the 90s, Mike Ferry was our coach. And part of that was kind of hard nose. And his element is go after the agreement. Go after the agreement. Get the agreement. Get the listing signed. Get that offer submitted. Okay. Without those, you're not going to see any compensation. You're not going to see the income. Okay. So you got to psych yourself or you got to do whatever it takes. Okay. It's like for me, I would also would psych myself and I would have lock boxes. And I would tell myself, why do I have 6 lock boxes in here? Those lock boxes need to be in listings. I would see my for sale signs too on the office. It's like, why do I have 3 or 4 for sale signs here? Those signs need to be on homes, advertising, so I can generate the income to support my family. Okay. Because those lockbox, just like those for sale signs, will get dusty. Okay. You want to clean them or do you want to have them out there building a brand for you that people know of you? Right. It's vital. It's crucial. Look, I know, I see it, I feel it all the time. As great as this industry and career is, it's tough, it's difficult. And here's the brutal honest. People that get into real estate within their first 24 months, 2 years, are out of the industry because they didn't put the effort. It's not that they cannot do it because they could do it. They got a real estate license. So that's already 60 to 7% of the effort. Now you got to go out and start talking to people. Oh, come on. This is sales. And if you don't feel comfortable, start building the confidence. Do whatever you need to do. That means talking to your significant other more. Do so. Because that's what's going to help you. You got to have an accountability partner as well. Hey, who do you have that's going to hold you accountable? Remember, you're self-employed. You're an independent contractor. You're in business for yourself. You're a CEO of your own real estate business. Act like it. You want to act like a CEO broke? Or do you want to be a CEO that's thriving? I want to be the CEO that is thriving in this industry. Okay? It only takes one step forward, ladies and gentlemen. Okay? My commitment. What does your weekends look like? What does your days look like? Okay? Because if you put the effort into it, I promise you, you're going to see results. You got to want it. You got to ask for the order. AFTO, the acronym that I use, AFTO, because my mentor many, many moons ago would say AFTO to me. It's like, you got to ask for the order, Simon, or you're not going to survive. Okay? Very simple, but it's so hard for a lot. So hard for a lot. What is the one skill that if you master would make everything else easier or unnecessary? If you cannot convert an appointment into an agency relationship, nothing downstream matters. Folks, I'm going to be honest with you. I love you all. I really do. And my number one thing is, it's not about me. It's not about the company. It's about how I can make success out of all of you. Some are doing amazing stuff. Some we need to push a little bit. Some we have to push a little bit more. And some we have to push all in. Okay? But if you're resisting, folks, I can't force you to do anything. I can guide you, but I can't force you. If you're not willing to, then it's going to be very difficult to really achieve results in real estate. Okay? This is a class that's a little different than my traditional real estate contract class, okay? Because I think we need to have a little bit more of a heart-to-heart conversation, okay? Because I want all of us to succeed. I want to be the number one office in the entire state of California. How about that? But I can't do it by myself. I can't rely only on my staff. I need your buy-in. I need your commitment. I need you to go out there and hunt for the business, because that's what's going to help us all. And when you start seeing results, you shine. People will start noticing you. People will start saying, wow, my gosh, look at this person. They're closing deals left and right. Okay? Well, there's not a lot of business out there, Simon. I say, I disagree with you. There's plenty of business out there. Why do I know that? Look at your competitors. Look at the agents that are closing deals left and right. Ask them, is there any opportunities out there? And they're going to chuckle and laugh at and say, there's plenty of business out there. But you have to have a system in place, ladies and gentlemen. Whatever system that works, you have to be consistent, persistent. Okay? Consistent will take you places that you won't even imagine. You don't have to be the best in contract, the best negotiator, the best objection handler. But if you're consistent in everything that you do on the daily, I promise you, you're going to see momentum and results and income coming your way. Prove me wrong. It's factual. Look at some of the top people in this world. I'm not talking about real estate, just athletes, entertainers, movie stars, right? There's a consistent in what they do. They're wired differently. And this is why they succeed. Real estate is no difference, folks. Really isn't. Make a commitment. Okay. The goal is how many deals you want to close this year. Write it down. How many listings you want to close this year. Write it down. What is your income potential that you want to make? Write it down. Okay. Because no one can stop you but yourself. Okay. You're your biggest critic, in my opinion. Okay. And don't give me the excuses. Well, I'm new. I haven't closed deals. Get out of that mindset. That's limited beliefs, in my opinion. I hope all this makes sense. Your personal one thing. If I master one consult this month, it would be buyer or seller. Write it down, commit to it, right? I just put this here just for your views and being transparent, right? That's all on you, you know, but you got to focus on whatever that is, that one thing, okay? Gary Keller has wrote many different books, The Millionaire Real Estate, the one thing, the investor, the flip, the hold, the rookie real estate agent book that just came out with Jay Papasan. So the resources that you have and the tools that you need to push yourself are there. Don't make excuses. Take the initiative and take action. Action, again, is where you start seeing results. So let's get into the buyer consultation framework, right? Here are some of the steps to build the trust and ultimately the commitment. These are, again, basic information. But I think it's a reminder for all of us, even seasoned, experienced agent, that what we need in order for us to build that muscle, right? And when you start building that muscle, you start looking at uh, building it more and more and more and more, right? It gets to the point is where you plateau. And I know because there's agents that plateau as well, okay? Then what you need to do is you need to pivot. Find something else that will give you the opportunity to generate a buyer, a seller, an investor, or even a developer. Okay. So let's dive into this and kind of see what that framework looks like. Step one, build rapport and set an agenda. Today, I want to understand your goals, timelines, finances, and what success looks like for you. Two, motivation. What is your motivation? Why are we here? Why am I here? After you look at the property, right, as an example, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, why am I here? That's a valid point. We need to know what their motivation is, why they're selling their home. But once you have a build rapport and a great understanding and an agenda, it lowers the pressure. It positions yourself as a professional, and it shows really your leadership. Discover motivation, which is the three things that I talk about. Are they a cold client? Are they a warm client? Or are they a hot? Okay. So let me break it down for you of the distinguishes and the differences. A cold buyer is someone that is not really motivated, is inquiring, but they're not ready to buy something. How do I get that person from cold to warm to warm to hot? What if it's a warm client? You know what? I've already got pre-approved. I'm not working with an agent. If I find the right property, I might buy. I might submit an offer. Okay, that's a warm client. But if you get a hot client, hey, I saw this property over on 123 ABC. It hits all the bells and whistles. I love it. I want to make an offer. Can you help me? Yeah, that's a hot buyer, right? Got to know the distinguishes. You got to know and listen to what their needs and wants are. Why are we moving? Why now? What happens if you don't do nothing for the next 6 to 12 months? What would a win look like for you? Okay. Just mindful things. But read what it says on the bottom. Weak agents stay shallow. Push deeper. Push deeper. Folks, look, you can get someone motivated enough with your personality, your wits, your charming way. You are in the industry of sales. Okay. If you're not acting like a professional, it's going to see right through you. They're going to go with someone else. It's a numbers game at the end of the day. But I think this is a good statement. Weak agents stay shallow. Push yourself every single day. Timelines and decision process. When do you want to be in the home? Who is involved in the decision making? Have you bought before? On a scale 1 to 10, how ready are you ready to buy? You know, I use a lot of this stuff when it comes to recruiting agents too. You know, after my initial meeting with an agent, and that's all levels, I treat everyone equally: top performers, mega agents, mid-level agents, non-producers, and newly licensed agents. It's the same thing for me because I already have a system in place. Okay. After our initial conversation, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10, you're ready to sign with us. You can't say 7. Where is this conversation? Well, it's a 9. Fantastic, a 9. Great. How do I get you from a 9 to a 10 today? And they'll pause. Well, I need to speak with my significant other before I make a crucial decision like this. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. I would love that. Any possibility to have that conversation with him or her right now over the phone? What am I trying to do? Create the urgency, but close the gap. Okay? Because the minute that person leaves my office, it's a 50-50 chance now. Because either I didn't sell them on KW, okay, enough for them to commit to signing up with us, or they sold me on why they chose not to join KW. Because it's a two-way street, folks. Okay. Buyers and sellers and investors are the same thing. They'll know if they're going to be working with you or not. I want my conversions every time I meet with the buyer, with the seller, that I am 95 to 99% of the chances that I get in front of someone that I can close them instantly. Because the minute that person leaves or we end our meeting, the likelihood drops to 50%. What did we miss? Where was the gap? What could I have done differently? That's why you want to utilize avenues of how you can navigate the conversation to lead to a motivational conversation that leads to them to sign. And I use this quite often. You know, I need to talk to my significant other before I commit to it. That's great, not a problem. I encourage you to do so. But let's do this. It only takes about 10 to 15 minutes of your time. Let's get the paperwork started. I will not process your paperwork until you now commit to speaking to your to your significant other. And then at that moment, you'll tell me yes or no. If you tell me great, we are already 50% of the process done, and we'll continue. If you say no, then I'll rip the contract. And each goes our separate ways. Imagine doing that with your clients. Okay, I understand it's a big decision. I get it. I get it. $1 million price of a home is significant. But let's do this. Let's sign this agreement, have it a conversation, and if it doesn't align what I portrayed or gave you, I have no problem in ripping the contract, and you can go on your separate way. But at least like get the ball rolling, because what you told me from a scale of 1 to 10, and you're a 9, I think we're there. But what if they say, well, it's a 3? Okay, still the same question. How do I get you from a 3 to a 10 today? Let them tell you what the issues are, so that way now you can handle that objection. Because there's something that we missed in that conversation. There was something that we didn't say, that there was a gap. The goal in any meetings with any potential client is to close the gap, right? It's to get them to sign the agreement. So now it puts you in a position of being employed. Guess what? You have no production, no transaction. You're unemployed. And the bad thing is you can't go collect unemployment either. How do you get yourself employed? Sign agreements. Okay, sign agreements. Moving forward, today's lecture, moving on, I got to go out and sign agreements. How many buyer consultations can I sign? How many listing agreements can I sign? I want you to be doing the happy dance every single month, because you closed out 2 to 3 or 1 deal. Okay, it's consistent. But in order to get to that level, you got to do the hard work, the dedication, the sweat, the tears, the blood that comes out, right? Of working to get us to that level. Financial readiness. Spoken with the lender, pre-approved. Gosh, we have a lender right here. Okay. You can walk to his office, set an appointment. Hey, I have someone that reached out. They're motivated enough. They want to buy something here in the city of Long Beach, as an example. And I'm directing them to the lender for them to do what they need to do. It's the driver, which is you, the bus, which is the company, and the people you have to help you close these deals. The lenders, the escrows, the title, the home inspectors, the home warranty companies, all of them, right, are part of your arsenal of tools. Get to the finish line. Okay, not financially grounded, not ready for showings. Okay, cash available after closing, comfortable monthly payments, pre-approved or pre-qualified. So here are the steps too as well. Define the search criteria: must have, nice to have, deal breakers, locations, commutes, lifestyles, needs. These are all very important elements, because that's going to set the tone, but that's going to set also the expectations or where you need to go, right? This is why you got to ask a lot of questions, so that way you're not showing the wrong property and they lose faith in you because you're just not listening. Sit with them and really get a good understanding of what that looks like. If they want a single family home and you're showing them condos, that's not good. Okay. Explaining the process, the search setup, touring of homes, offer strategies, negotiations, inspections, appraisal, closings, and communications. I think all of this is basic stuff, but it's things that we must understand as well. Ask for a commitment. Are you comfortable moving forward together so we can start with the next step? This is where business is won, folks. When you define what that looks like, I promise you, you will succeed. The issue here is that we don't have agents that want to push themselves to that level because they feel uncomfortable. Get out of that comfort zone, and I promise you, you're gonna make errors, you're gonna make mistakes. It's okay. Okay, but learn from those mistakes. Trust me, I've done a lot of mistakes throughout my career, but I keep pressing forward. I write a lot of notes so that way I know not to do the same thing, right? Because it can be very exhausting in this industry, mentally, physically, and emotionally. But if you have a system in place, I promise you it's going to be easy. It's going to be exciting. You're going to enjoy it. You're going to be happy again. One, you're closing deals, you're making the income. But when you have a system, then it's step and repeat, step and repeat. That's all you're doing. If forms change, which they do every year, twice a year, just adapt. Adapt to the new. Because trust me, when I started my career back in the mid 90s, it's not nowhere close what it is today. I mean, there's just technology, there's just a lot more stuff today. More documents to sign, more disclosures to provide. That means more talking. But you got to do what you got to do. Okay. You either want it or you don't. Simple. All right, let's go into the seller's consultation. 8 steps to price right, build trust, and win the listing. Remember, sellers hire confidence. Sellers hire market knowledge. Sellers hire clear strategies. You got to have them all. If you want to go after more market share, more listings, okay, you gotta have that ability to know how to navigate the conversation, understand the elements of a listing agreement, the do's and don'ts, marketing the property, showcasing it, but you also have to understand it and analyze the home, right? If the home is in an area and you list it for way higher than what the area is selling for, what's going to happen to that property? Yeah, it's going to sit there. It's not going to sell. Why would someone buy a property where they can get other properties that have the same layout for a lot less? Mike Ferry was a big advocate to that. List homes to sell. List homes to sell. That's why we do market analysis, CMA, comparable. Why do they call it comparable? Because it has to be apples to apples. Okay? An apple to a cherry is not a comparable fruit. So why would you think that a house that has 5 bedrooms to a house that has 2 bedrooms is a comparable property? It won't. It will not comp out. The appraisal will not give you evaluation. And now you just shot yourself on the foot because the appraisal came in a lot less than what you listed. And I'll be surprised if you even get an offer. Just say. Comparable properties are vital. I know it's hard. Okay. Here's the thing. When the seller or the buyer lead the conversation, it's game over. When you lead the conversation and navigate, then you win. You're going to get the listing. You're going to get that buyer consultation agreement. You got to take the initiative. You got to take the bull by the horn and write it. Okay? They hired you for that purpose. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. I hope so, because that makes sense to me. And I'm 30 years in this industry. I love it. And again, if you have any questions, please let me know. All right. Step one, set the tone. My job today is to understand your goals, evaluate the property, review the market, and determine the best path to the strongest results. Uncover motivation. What is your ideal moving time? What is the timeline important to you? What happens if we don't meet that goal? Step three, diagnose property condition. What major updates have you completed? How would a buyer describe the property currently? Apologize for some of the typo there. Curb appeal. Which repairs you think are the most important for the buyer? Uncover motivation. I think it's a repeated, yeah, it's kind of a repeated thing. Review market and reality, right? Current competition and listings, recent comparable sales data, average days on market, interest and rates, overall supply and demand. All of this is part of the arsenal of tools that you need in order. And you can see there's actually a tool right here, a little hammer, right? That's your tool chest. What is your tools? The multiple listing service, your zip forms, right? Your office, your Supra key, right? You need all of these to do your job. Because if you expect to get a listing, but you don't have the listing agreements in place or don't have an understanding of it, you're not going to get the listing. That's simple. That's simple, folks. Price strategy. Price is not a hope strategy. It is a position of strategy. So true. There has to be some type of understanding of the inspirational, and there's also risk. Because if you overprice this home, it's going to sit on the market. And before you know it, it's going to be a stale listing. And before you know it, you're going to probably lose it either because of sellers not comfortable in your ability and they want to cancel, or the listing will become an expired listing. Market alignment. Okay. What is the market telling us? Because when you're in front of a seller and they ask me a question, well, my house is worth this because I've seen it on all of these websites. Okay. I completely understand. But let me show you what my system shows me. These are factual from either the county recorders as closed transactions off market and stuff that has closed on the multiple listing service that the majority of real estate professionals go in there and input this information, okay, compared to what third-party sites that use algorithms to analyze properties. There's not someone that comes physically and looks at the home. They don't know that you updated the kitchen, the bathrooms, added new windows, replaced the roof, added an AC, HVAC. They don't know that you did any plumbing to the home. Okay. So this is the reason you want to hire a professional to evaluate the situation. So that way we can give you what an opinion of value. Because at the end of the day, folks, it's not what I say. It's not what the seller says. It's what the buyer's ultimately willing to pay for the property. Okay. That's really what it is. The sellers believe their home is this up here. I believe it's here, but the buyers believe their home, their property is this down here. Factual. Okay. But also understanding the elements of where you're at, because an aggressive real estate professional knows how to market the property, but more so listing price. They got to know what's going to sell, what's going to push this home to a multiple offers or an offer in general. I want to be that agent because I say it and I'll continue saying it. I'm not in the industry to babysit homes. I'm in the industry to sell homes. But also, you got to be very aggressive in your approach, because if you're not going to sell the property. And you just wasted time, effort, energy, and money. And the property will expire or cancel. The launch strategy: prep, staging, photography, video, digital exposure, MLS, open houses, agent promotions, feedbacks, price adjustments. Okay, these are all critical conversations that we must have with the seller. Look, my number one goal is to help you sell your home, but we got to prep it. Okay, and be in a position to feel know how to handle when the house looks in bad shape. Maybe it's cluttered. It's okay. Your job is to make that house look presentable. You're not offending the client. You're trying to get them the most possible money. Squeeze as much money out of that house. They'll thank you for that at the end, because you got them what they wanted or then some more. But you got to be brutally honest with them. We may have to stage the home. We may have to declutter. And you got to be okay with having those conversations, because you got to show it in the best light possible, right? Otherwise, if a buyer walks in, they're either not going to make an offer or they're going to try to lowball, just because there's so much stuff. They cannot see the true picture of how the house looks, right? So it's okay to say, let's get everything into the garage or in a storage. The less, the better. The less, the better. Because now you have a flow. Now I can walk throughout the house, right? Because there's flow instead of doing this, because the house has too much stuff. Just being honest. Pre-handling objections. Seller says, well, let's try to list the home at this price with the hope that if an offer comes in, we have the gap to get it at a lower price for the buyer. It may be a good strategy. I don't know. I'd rather do the reverse. Okay? I'd rather do the reverse. Instead of raising it high, let's lower it down, get more offers, and have it more of a auction type of position, where now we have multiple offers, and now we can now push these buyers to give us the highest and best. Because I'd rather deal with 6 offers than one offer that is going to try to lower it down. Think of it that way, as an auction. Why is your commission X amount? What if an objection comes your way? You're saying you want 3%? How would you handle that objection? Anyone? If I'm the seller,
however, I'll tell you if you'd like to maybe think about some of the path.
yeah, I mean, all commissions are negotiable, and I get it, right? But I know what I'm worth. Try to discount your amount with an attorney. You retain an attorney, you just been charged with a felony, and you need the best attorney out there to defend you, to get you out of this sticky situation. And then you reach out and they say, look, this attorney is aggressive. He's a litigator. She's a litigator. They've won a lot of great cases and got these people out of jail. But they're pricey. Your livelihood, right? So you reach out to this attorney, okay, and it says, yeah, not a problem. This is a slam dunk, easy case for me. I'll take on the case, but my fee is 40%. 40%. Not 3% like we usually charge. 40% is what they get. Try negotiating a lower commission than that. 40% seems a little too high. Can we offer you 25? That attorney says, good luck, go find another litigator. Just saying. Be the professional. Act like one. You deserve. I see all of you deserving the full commission. But you got to have that confidence. What is the value proposition that you offer? Because there's a dime of dozen, there's a lot of licensed agents, but they don't have your style, your ability, your finesse, your negotiations, your understanding of the process. This is why you are worth this commission.
I have a question.
Yes.
So since it's a lawsuit happened, I have noticed like every time I submit the offer, because now the seller does not have to pay both sides, they always try to lower the commission, just always. So what would you do, like, because 3 reasons, either we try to negotiate back, or we have the buyer pay for it, or we just accept it and then we lose the commission. Like, is there any other way?
When you represent who? The buyer?
I represent the buyer, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good point, right? Because since all of this changes happen, we've noticed that sellers are not paying the 3%, the 2.5%, the 2.75s. Now they're paying 2.25 or even 2%, right? Well, I mean, you submit your offer, right? And you can ask again, is like pushing to try to get your commission that you want. But remember, the agreement between you and the buyer is that 3%, right? So in essence, is if you understand how the contracts work, then whatever the seller brings to the table, now the difference is paid by who? The buyer. Ask the buyer to pay you the difference. Look, I got you the house that you love. It hits everything that you wanted. We got you a great price, but the agreement was 3%. I only got, and I tried to squeeze the seller to pay me, but I was only able to get 2.5%. That 0.5%, unfortunately, will have to be paid by you. That's what we have an agreement for.
And if they say, well, standard is 2.5%.
What is standard? Who says it's standard?
I think, I guess, only most.
Well, you said it. You said standard. I've never heard of standard. I would take that out of the equation or take it out of your vocabulary. Read the contract. The contract says that all commissions are negotiable. Okay. Again, that's putting a little bit of limited beliefs, because when you start thinking it's standard, then you're kind of like everyone else. I don't want to be like everyone else. Does that make sense? I want to be that rock star agent that I do a 5-star concierge white glove experience with my clients, that they will refer me business, right? That's what I want. So in order for me to be that, this is why I charge what I charge. Okay. And if that objection comes my way, I understand, but I'm not your typical standard agent. You hired me to give you, a good understanding of the process, to be a great negotiator, to, communicate with you on a regular basis, to make sure that there's no pitfalls, making sure that I'm on top of all the parties that are involved, the lender, the escrow, the title, and the other agent involved, This is why I'm asking for the additional percentage to be paid, because I'm working my tail off for you and your family. And do it with a smile. I know it's hard. Okay. But you have to make the ultimate decision. If they're bucking it and bucking it and bucking it, and they're saying, well, then you got to make an executive decision and say, okay, look, I'll do it for you. And then here's the comeback. But if I do this for you, promise me when we close this deal and I hand you the keys to your beautiful home, you're going to refer me at least 3 to 5 people that want to buy, sell, and invest. Can you do that for me? Yes. Yes. Yes.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Tell me more about that. Why maybe? You don't like my services? Is
If
what
I know somebody who wants to.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want you to put your fillers out there. If anyone tells you, hey, I'm thinking of buying, selling, and investing, hey, I got Simon. He's a great agent with Keller Williams. You're in good hands with him. That's what I'm saying. Okay. But everyone is different. Not everyone is going to be me. And I'm not expecting you to be me. I'm just telling you who I am. This is why I'm giving you these presentations, so you kind of understand where you stand. Okay. But there's no wrong way. It's just, as I mentioned, you got to know objections, negotiations, and the agreements. All right, we got to speed it up because I know we're pressed for time. All right. As for the listing, I recommend we position the home at and launch on, and the next step is to complete the paperwork. Okay, very simple. Seller's consultation small group drill. So we're gonna, seller wants to price 8% above market. Home needs paint, carpet. Seller is also buying and feeling anxiety. What do you say first? What questions do you ask? How do you redirect without sounding combative? Okay, we're gonna skip this part because I thought I was gonna have time for it. So the production and essentials, the consulting principles that get agents into income fast. There's not a soft skills, there are conversational mechanics to everything that we do. And those mechanics is like an engine, right? An engine cannot perform without the essentials, right? It needs oil, it needs freon or coolant, it needs pistons, it needs a lot of moving parts in order for that engine to perform. It's no difference than a doctor diagnosing you, right? You're going to go in there. The first thing that the doctor says to you is what? Anyone?
What are you feeling?
How you feeling today? Tell me what's the problem, right? He or she is doing a diagnostic of what the issue is, so that way they're spinning their heads of what they need to do, what tests they need to do. Do we need to do lab work? Do we need to do CAT scan? Do we need to do a blood pressure? Do we need to do a urine test? Whatever the case may be. But that's the only way they're going to know how to diagnose, right? That's no difference than real estate, folks. Working with buyers and sellers, you got to be that doctor and have that diagnostic ability to know what their needs and wants and their motivation. That's why we say practice scripts and dialogues and objection. Have an accountability partner. Practice 15 minutes every single day. If that's practicing in the mirror, okay, I'm a great agent. I'm a great listing agent. I will close a deal this month. Today, I'm going to connect with the buyer and the seller. I know it may sound a little erotic, it may sound a little bit weird, but do whatever it takes to motivate you. Okay? I don't know. I'm just throwing things out.
Great job.
Sound prepared, not robotic, right? That's hard, right? Because if you're script and you're saying, hi, my name is Simon. I'm with Keller Williams. Are you interested in selling your home? No.
Okay.
Great.
Get you in position.
Yeah. Ask more questions, right? I completely understand. I'm not here to list your home. I'm here to provide you some value. How long have you lived here, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer or seller? Fantastic. What brought you into this community? Great. If you were to sell your home, where would you go next? Fantastic. How soon would that be? Wonderful. Have you ever had a comparable market analysis so you understand what the value of your home is? Great. Let me get one over to you. Okay. Simple. Okay. Well, it's simple for me, but I know it's kind of going up that hill, but the more you do it, the better you're going to feel in doing this, folks. Control the process. Diagnose before your prescription, right? Questions first, strategy second, no premature advice, right? Remember, you got to be a great listener, because all of your answers will be when you're a good listener. When you give out too much, you're done. When you give a little, but let them spill the beans, you win. Okay? But you got to know how to ask the right questions. But you also have to know how to control the process. Confidence is clarity plus sequence. Okay? Beautiful. Love it. Financial qualification is the production to skills. Not all, I don't know, determines your readiness, but anyhow, you get the point. You get the understanding. Every meeting needs a commitment. Ask no vague endings. Every schedule follow-up before the meeting ends an example. Okay. Lenders, intro, CMAs review, showing tours, listing presentation. Okay. All of these are vital is as you're having a conversation with a seller, right? You're going to explain, all of them. You know that there's about 150 different things you must do, about 150 things. And many years ago, I had this, and it was like I was taken back. I was blown away. But it's so true. There's so many things that you must do, so it shows your value proposition. If I can find it, okay. If I can find it, I'll see if I can, send it out. But it's been years. But it was like 150 different things that we must prepare for a listing. Okay. The one thing for agents, get great at one buyer console and one seller console before chasing every shining tactics, right? Again, the more that you're practicing, the better that you're going to get. That's just kind of the understanding. Objection handling. Okay. We are interviewing other agents. We're just starting to look. We want to list higher. We're not ready to sign anything. Okay. Knowledge is clarified and lead. That makes sense when you say what you think about it and what specifically do you still need to feel confident in moving forward. Skill is verbal, practice is out loud. Okay. I think it's an important element because knowledge is really the clarity is you feel comfortable. You feel that you understand how to navigate a conversation is because you already have the knowledge. You've already gone through the trenches. You've heard different situations and scenarios, right? And because you've closed multiple deals, most of the transactions are going to be pretty similar. The only thing that changes is really the person that you're working with, their personality. That's really it. The process is the same. Okay. And I'll prove it to you. Okay. A listing for $500,000 is the same process on a $50 million listing. How about that? 500,000, $50 million listing, same process. But what is different is the level of conversations. That's what's different. Okay. And guess what? Sometimes higher price points are a lot easier than lower price points. So when you take that out of your mindset, that if you go on a $50 million listing, it's probably an easier conversation. Because if you understand the process, what's going to change? Okay.
Your bank account.
Exactly. Your commission is going to have more zeros. But the process is the same, ladies and gentlemen. I want you to be excited. because that's going to build that muscle and that's going to build that momentum of knowledge is power and clarity. Okay. But you got to get to that level. And most of you here have it already. Okay. It's just a refresher. The implementation challenge. Okay. For a lot of us, this is pretty basic stuff. Okay. But I think it's still pretty relevant. Okay. Memorize buyer seller consultation structures, practice scripts 15 minutes daily, role play 5 buyers consults, role play 5 seller consults, conduct at least 3 real or simultaneous appointments, ask for commitments and every time, right? Again, for me is how do I keep pushing myself to get that appointment? How do I keep pushing myself to get that signed agreement, right? After today's class, I want you to think of one thing and one thing only, right? Obviously, there's a lot of moving parts, but I want you to think of it this way, right? Every buyer seller is an opportunity. Every buyer seller is an opportunity. But if you're not at least converting with them, you'll never know. I don't know if you're ready to buy, sell, and invest, but if I introduce myself, hi, my name is Simon, and break that ice, not that I'm going to be pushing, just say, I'm a real estate agent, right? You want to converse with that individual first and foremost, and then you go for the kill. Okay. Track your appointments, set consultations held, and agreement signs, and secure your position and secure the listing and the buyer consultations.
Hey, Simon,
Yes.
can you provide us with the scripts?
I can provide you with scripts, and I can also provide you with something even better. I'll put it up on my computer right now, okay, where you can get a lot of these scripts at no cost through the Mike Ferry organization. Okay, I think those are some of the best ones as well. But it's really basics. It's price, terms, and conditions. If you know how to handle the price, terms, and condition, and any objections, you got it. But I'll show it to you in a bit. Okay. What you need to do now: a structured consultation beats every situation. Financial qualifications, objections are redirected, not avoided. Diagnose always comes before prescriptions. Every meeting ends with a clear next steps, and master one console and one seller console before everything. Okay. And then last is this. You do not get paid for knowing real estate. You get paid for leading people through decisions. Okay. Just like real estate professionals. Okay. My job is to lead in how to get into production. Okay. When someone is struggling, I sit with them and I analyze the situation and I go through the core principles. Okay. What activities are you doing? What is your daily? Are you time blocking? And are you doing any income producing activities? And if it's no, that's your problem. That's your gap. And if you are doing some of those activities, okay, what's your conversions? Why do you feel that you're not converting? Okay, there's something that is missing. Because if I get 3 real estate agents to go and go on a listing appointment, one of those 3 is going to get the listing. That's simple. Okay, what did they do differently? Okay, that's kind of the stem of it. Okay, any questions regarding today's presentation? All right, let me see some of the chat real quick. Question: do you always sign a contract agreement, listing agreement, buyer agreement during the consultation meeting? Is that the goal? 100%. Yes. The goal is that if I'm going to spend 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour with the buyer or seller, by all means, I want to get that signed agreement there. I really, really, truly want to. Okay. Does it happen all the time? No. Okay. But that's your follow-up execution. You got to follow up. Okay. Because they may not be ready to sign something. And I get it. I'm not one to sign anything the first meeting I meet with someone. No, I need to, absorb everything, make a decision before I sign anything. And that's okay. But the goal is obviously to get them to sign the minute that you meet with them. Absolutely. Next question. I attended Mike Ferry seminars in the 80s. Whoa. Okay, my friend, you're old school. You beat me. Well, you know Mike Ferry. You definitely know Mike Ferry because Mike Ferry was a straight shooter. Okay. And he went in, there was no nonsense to him. No nonsense whatsoever. Everyone should be using InfoSpark, to provide a bird's eye view of the market and its additional CMAs, which shows more granular views. 100%. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. Those are, again, part of all of your arsenal of tools. Okay. Okay. Yeah, no problem, Lily. I will send you over the slides. If the buyer says, I'm not paying you okay, let's see. If the buyer says, I am not paying you, in that case, you put in the contract agreement 0 for commission. Okay, so there is language on the buyer representation agreement that says if the buyer doesn't have the means, right? Now, transparency, right, is this. Part of our job is to analyze if they qualify before you send them to a Chris Rivera, as an example. Meaning is, do you have a job? How long have you been in your job? Have you filed your taxes in the last 2 to 3 years? What is your income? How much money do you have to put down for a home? How's your credit? These are all perfectly fine conversations to have. Now, with that, when they provide the financials, right, you're going to see if they have the income or not, because they can say they don't. And yes, sometimes when you're working with a VA or FHA, they're just stretching every dollar to get qualified with closing costs, proration, fees, and the down payment. Yeah, they may be tight. And they may not be able to pay you an additional 0.5% or even 1%. But you got to take it for case by case. But if they have 300,000 and they're only putting 100,000, right? They obviously have the means to pay you a commission. They're just choosing not to. Now, going back to what you're saying, standard practice, right? I hate that word, standard practice. Okay. And nothing against it. It's a lot of agents have that limited belief that everything is standard practice. But I don't want to be standard. I don't want to be mediocre. I don't want to be part of this group of individuals that think the same. I want to think outside the box. Okay. I know what I'm worth. Okay. But I also know when I need to bend a little bit to make this deal work too. I'm not going to kill it because I'm selfish and I want a 3% or 4% commission, because I'm looking at the long game. This is a potential buyer that eventually will be a homeowner in 3 to 5 years, may want to sell and list their home, or might buy an investment, but they may also refer me clients. That 0.5% that I lost, I'm going to make it in the future. Does that make sense? So look at it from that perspective too. Remember, when you get a listing too as well, right? You put your sign, you're going to get traffic as well. You host open house. You should be doing open houses every single month. If not one, at least 2 a month, you should be doing open houses. That's one of the best leads that you can get. I know. And the beautiful thing is not that you're spending 8 hours in an open house. 3 hours should be enough to do an open house. That drives opportunities. Okay. So in essence, if the buyer is not willing to pay, then yeah, you're just going to leave it blank, or you're going to say that the buyer doesn't have the means to pay you a commission, and that's fine. Then the goal is to try to get it from the seller. And if the seller says they're not going to pay you 1 cent, that's okay. Then you got to explain to the buyer, listen, they're not going to pay me any commission. You said that you can't pay me either. So what would you like me to do? Well, I need you to help me represent. Okay, but I'm not going to get paid. So we either have to go find another property that the seller is motivated to pay me, or you can go in as a unrepresented buyer and work directly with the seller. And then I just try to see if I can get a referral out of this. Okay. No, Simon, I want you to get paid. You worked tremendously on this, and you deserve every penny. Okay, got it. So let's move forward on it and find another property if the seller is not willing to pay. So that's kind of how it works. All right. Any questions other than these questions? Oh, I was going to show you something else. Who was asking again for the scripts?
Robert was asking.
Oh, okay. All right, Robert. So then I don't think I need to, but I'll show the rest of the group, right? So if you go to the Mike Ferry as an example, let me just show you for people that don't know. So when you go to Mike Ferry, let's see here. All right, so this is the Mike Ferry. And if you look on top here, it says scripts. But you got to create an account in order for you to get the scripts. But see here, you got buyer scripts, download, English, Spanish, buyer scripts, qualifications for homes and motivation, English and Spanish, listing plan in action, listing presentation, English, Spanish, and French, pre-qualifying the listing presentation. Okay. You can get all these, and I believe there's even more downloadable scripts that you can download. And you just, oh, you don't even have to sign up anymore. Look, how cool is that? Okay, there you go. So that's one way of getting scripts. Now, ChatGPT, okay, I think all of us are using ChatGPT. I would say that depending on what you're trying to accomplish, let's say you're trying to go for a for sale by owner, then use ChatGPT for your advantage, and then ask ChatGPT, I'm going on for a for sale by owner. I am the agent. I want to be able to navigate any objections that a seller by owner, obviously they're not using a listing agent because they don't want to pay a commission. What is my value proposition that I can utilize as my arsenal of tools to try to navigate an appointment, right? And then let chat really give you all of the segues and scripts that you need. You know, ChatGPT has revolutionized in how we can do business at a very high level and streamlined, that you can even ask it to say, hey, provide me with any and all Mike Ferry scripts. And I believe it'll provide you with all of the scripts, because a lot of the stuff is public information that is downloadable now. Okay, so keep that in mind as well. Okay, any other questions? All right, well, that concludes today's class. I appreciate you all. I hope this was of value, and I will see you on the next contracts class. Thanks, everyone. Thank you.
Simon, before you leave,